So a question I often get a lot is, can plyometrics help with my vertical jumping? The answer is obviously yes. Now, if we're going to look at it in two ways, firstly, we'll look at it on the skill-based parameters that you'll gain from plyometric training. Number one is timing. Being able to effectively time when you're going to hit the ground, how you're going to hit the ground, and whether you'll be able to deal with the intensity or amplitude of the movement that you're going to do. So let's say that you're taking speed into your takeoff. Doesn't matter if you're 1 foot or 2 foot. When you have maybe done some training and got to a stage where you're taking more speed into that, you do need to make sure that you have the skill-based parameters that come with leveling up physical performance. And that's why it's important to constantly keep vertical jump training in your program and not take it away at any point. You need to keep that skill there. And actually, I think the plyometrics help you improve how well you time and effectively put yourself in positions where you're able to handle these high forces. Timing also comes into the second component, where we're looking at pre-activation or creating tension throughout the lower body to be able to handle higher and higher forces. The best athletes in the world are able to create the largest levels of pre-activation or tension before they've even hit the ground. And they're able to do this in a really fast, ramped up way. It's not a slow thing where they're trying to prepare for the ground really early in the air. Actually, it's more of a subconscious effort, and plyometrics teaches this in that we have a relaxed state in the air, and then as we're coming down to hit the ground, we're milliseconds from striking down into hitting the ground, and we pre-activate. Everything stiffens at the right time. We go back to that timing element, and then we're able to handle more force. We're able to modulate that force, which means we're able to deal with it and effectively couple that energy. So we take the energy from the momentum coming into that landing and use it in the takeoff. That's vertical jumping. It's converting what you've done horizontally and taking it vertically, no matter whether you are a 1 foot or 2 foot jumper. The other component of this, I think, is proprioceptive awareness and knowing where you are in space. Every time that you improve physical parameters, there are skills that need to come in, and proprioception is a really big one. This goes the same if you've ever rolled your ankle. If you're not improving your proprioceptive awareness, you will often re-roll your ankle because you're not sure where you are in space. So when you put your foot down, the likelihood is that you have stiffness and control often drops down. So that too comes from plyometrics, and proprioceptive awareness allows that goes with the first and second point as well. We understand how to time things well. So am I in the right space? Do I understand where I am in the air to go, okay, now I can put my right foot down, and then if I'm, let's say, a 2 foot jumper, I can put my right foot and then left foot down, or vice versa. And these skills are really valuable because not every jump is the same. So if we have a larger variety of movements and how we can execute them, the better we will be for ultimately improving our overall performance and outputs. So on the flip side of this, you might be thinking, how do I improve the physical capacities with plyometrics? Well, we can improve stiffness again. So stiffness and creating global tension. There's half of that will come from the skill parameter side of things, and that comes in proprioception and timing and awareness, and also the tissue development. Can I withhold tension in a really stiff manner and not go through long ranges of motion when force is applied to me? And actually I can use movements like this that enable me to handle really fast inputs, deal with that force and move off of it. Because ultimately, if you want to jump higher, you have to carry more speed, be able to handle that speed, be able to get through the landing and out of the takeoff at a higher speed. So vertical velocity becomes your number one key performance indicator. And that's why being able to handle larger braking forces is also a really important part of the physical development side of how plyometrics can help with your vertical jumping. So if I can handle more input, as I mentioned before, I'll be able to handle more output, or be able to control more output into my takeoff. The last physical component is using plyometrics to go beyond the demands of your sport. So If we're talking specifically about vertical jumping, we're using plyometrics to spike a larger force, a larger overload, and a greater need to, going back to creating higher pretension, creating larger forms of stiffness, being able to handle the eccentric overload or incoming force and how we deal with that incoming force, and ultimately making the vertical jumping component not always the 100% of maximum intensity. We want to be able to get back to vertical jumping and actually feel as if this is relatively submaximal. So using plyometrics like this flat hop into high hop here is exactly the kind of thing that you need to get to eventually with plyometrics, so that your vertical jumping doesn't always feel as if it is your 1RM back squat. And I think once you have plyometrics in your program, this should ultimately be your focus, being able to deal with more overload at a faster rate. It takes a hell of a lot to get there. It requires low-level, light-tier movements. It requires submaximal forms of plyometrics. It requires intense forms of plyometrics, and then the supporting tier of the deep tier. All of this together gives you the skills and capacities to build on those qualities that we've mentioned: timing, proprioceptive awareness, understanding how to modulate force well, understanding how to effectively couple it and use that energy, and having the physical changes that come alongside improving tissue stiffness, dealing with higher levels of eccentric and braking forces, and using movements that are going beyond the demands of your sport. So if you aren't already, start using plyometrics. You can go to plyos.com and grab our plyometric program that will specifically give you the skills to be able to execute a better vertical jump. Always make sure that you're doing vertical jump training sessions along that at least once a week, and make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe below. Thanks.